that was given an opportunity would have a little bit more integrity, and he doesn't. And so he's gone to Wolves, and I would imagine the circumstances for Middlesbrough was one of disbelief initially, similar to my situation with Steve Bruce all those years ago in Birmingham. Middlesbrough have got some built-in protections that ultimately means that Wolves can't come along and take him without paying anything, which is what Birmingham tried to do via David Sullivan, which they got stopped doing. But they would have been disappointed, because then they would not have been surprised that Wolves were making overtures to their manager. What they would have looked for is their manager to have done precisely what he did in his press conference, which is basically distance himself from that particular opportunity and remind himself in the full glaze of the public domain that he was actually in a good job. And of course, then what he's done is he's done the atypical thing that most managers do, which is, but I'd like to go and have a chat with them. Once he said that to Middlesbrough, once you've said, well, actually, I'd like to go and have a chat with them, then where do you go from there?
Is it idealistic, though, Simon, to suggest that he owed Middlesbrough anything?
Of course he did. If Middlesbrough fired him, they have to pay him. If they fired him, they gave him a 3-year contract. Now, that would have been caveated slightly, so they didn't have to pay the full 3 years if he was a roaring failure. But they would have had to pay him something. In this instance, they brought him in, they gave him a job on the back of the fact that, I remember watching him, with due respect to him, I think he did remarkably well to get Luton promoted. I watched a documentary that he was part of, and I came away with a completely different impression of him than I had originally. I thought he was a bit of a flake. And of course, last year, Luton's team dropped into the relegation zone and got relegated. So he's lucky to get a great job like Middlesbrough, working for a great chairman like Steve Gibson, who's been unequivocal in his support of Middlesbrough for 30 years. And now he's going to go to a club that I think is a crap job, quite frankly. I think they're in free fall. I think they don't have a squad of players that's going to keep them in the Premier League. I don't think they have a culture motivated to be able to give managers the kind of support that they need on the field, because all their best players are being sold left, right and centre because they've got to fulfil different outcomes than perhaps the original motivation of Fosan and their ownership model.
But could you not?
And I hope he gets what he deserves.
Could you not? And what do you think he deserves?
I hope Wolves get relegated and he goes down with them and suffers a consequence of it. Because people will say, he'll point to, no doubt, well, look what happened to me at Watford. I was there for 4 months, they were 10th in the league, I got bombed. Yeah, but you know that going into Watford. Watford is a freak show of management. It does itself. It's not the model that most people would look at and think was a wonderful way to run a football club, having 107 managers in 10 years.